Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a scenario where America from WICSO forms an empire. Now, America doesn't need an empire, they've kind of had an empire, but it'd be interesting to look like what their empire would look like if they went ahead and formed one on this map. So let's jump right on into it. But first, I do want to say that I've been trying to do these videos all in one take so that it has less time that I have to spend editing, and more time that I can spend recording more videos and having fun. Because these videos are really fun to make. You don't know that until you do them. Anyways, let's start this scenario off with the thing that the Americans would definitely do most quickly, and that is launch an invasion into the country of Louisiana. Now, this Louisianan country, it is pretty irrelevant. I don't think it's ever done anything. And in the actual WICSO series, it just kind of collapsed and then became a part of the American country anyway. So, yeah, this country is too irrelevant for this war to even, like, happen. They're also kind of too irrelevant to even be on this map, but there weren't enough countries in North America, so they are here. Eventually, we will see the capital of this country falling, and from here, a quick sweep will be conducted around the coastal regions. Eventually, this inland area will fall over to American forces, and from here, simple as that, we're going to see the Louisianian country getting obliterated off the map, and already in less than a minute, or a little over a minute actually. I have no gauge on time. But yeah, we already have a country gone. And yeah, there goes your capital. And now we can go ahead and look at their next move, which is probably a little more like in just random, but they're going to be invading this Texan country. I had a loss of words there and I can't explain why, but yeah, they're going to invade into this white country here. And this thing, it's like really underpopulated, as you will see here. They have very little major cities. They actually only have two. And then other than that, they have four military bases, two of which are already not in their territory. So yeah, from here the American forces will kind of just breeze through this territory. It's the kind of equivalent of Oklahoma and part of the mountainous areas of Colorado in real life. So yeah, from here they're going to lose their second last major military base and their other major city. And at this point, their country's just going to die. And yeah, from here, the exact same thing will happen for this country that happened to Louisiana, where this country will just completely be erased from existence because, well, it wouldn't be able to survive if any amount of land was taken from it. So yeah, goodbye that country. And now we're looking at a very familiar shape for this American country. It's not about to be any familiar, though, because they will not be ending their shenanigans as they will be continuing their expansion into the country that is Texas here. American forces were probably already lined up here from their invasions into Oklahoma and Louisiana countries, and they will immediately take the capital of Texas. From here, they will take two major military bases, and this is where they kind of see the first major resistance to their expansion, as Texas is a lot more populated, especially in their capital city, which has already fallen. There's definitely guerrilla warfare happening here, but nevertheless, we're going to see yet another major military base falling, and from here, we're going to see this major city falling, and as well as this, we see these front lines merging. From here, this major city here will fall, and a sweep will very quickly take the rest of the military bases in this country, and this last major city will be captured, which will lead to the official capitulation of the remainder of Texas. From here, nothing different. This country will be fully annexed and erased off of the map. And at this point, yeah, goodbye, capital. And America is kind of convincing a whole bunch of other countries to probably make an alliance. And that's what we see happening here, as I'm not going to represent it, but these four countries that are on this line, they're going to form an alliance against having America expanding westward. It probably actually includes the Yucatan and Central American countries too, but that's up to interpretation. That's just basically saying they're irrelevant to this video. From here, though, yeah, America has ambitions southward, and they will go ahead and, yeah, do what they do best and invade into Caribbean. This is, I think, the third time that this has been represented, but American forces will very quickly wipe out the Bahamas. Soon after, they'll make landings in Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica, and Cuba will fall. Following this, all these smaller islands plus Hispaniola will fall over, and at this point, I mean, what else would happen? The American country will completely annex Caribbean into their brand new empire. This is kind of like giving the US an empire, but the US already is connected to the Pacific Ocean, so this is a little bit different, but kind of still on the same lines. But now we're going to see the American country going after a pretty strong country, and definitely the strongest country they've fought yet. And that country will be the New York country, as now they're setting their ambitions up northward in these former French colonies. They will immediately take a lot of the land surrounding the southern area of Lake Erie and also cutting off this connection here. They also begin to push out of Michigan and out of the Delaware, Delmarva, Maryland area into areas of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And yeah, this fight, it definitely goes in their favor, but it's a lot slower. They will take about all the New Jersey area, but it is very slow in the process of doing so. Eventually, they'll take all the area surrounding Lake Huron, and then they'll reach this major city here and take it. From here, this area is kind of a breeze and expanding into, and they will take all the area surrounding Lake Ontario. At this point, they're able to squeeze out New York forces from a lot of the area here, and eventually they will flee from their capital island and probably head up to the main area. At this point, they're going to be swept very quickly out of Massachusetts and like the Connecticut area. And at this point, the New York country will surrender, accepting that they're probably not going to be nearly as strong, large, or powerful as they were before this war. And this will be the first case where this country will not be fully annexed, as we get to look at a completely new border being drawn up for them, which is kind of convenient to the map that's already here, because they're not going to be losing all too much in the grand scheme of things. It's not too valuable of land, but it's definitely valuable land. It's less than half of your main territory, so you shouldn't be concerned, but yeah, we're going to see them losing all this area in their western region here, as the Americans will annex parts of Canada and I guess the Pennsylvania kind of area from the New York country, and they kind of have a little Great Lakes empire going on here now. New York will continue to hold their capital region, but yeah, that's pretty bad for them. Anyways, from here, the American country will lock onto their next target, which is pretty exposed. American forces will begin to invade into the central Canadian country, very quickly seizing all valuable land in the western area here. From here, they begin to do the exact same thing as they push all the way up around this lake here, and they're going to take the capital pretty early on in this war. And they're going to basically say, yo, chill out, we're just going to annex a lot of your southern area, and you don't have to worry about us. The central Canadian country, which literally cannot do anything about this, will be forced into this agreement and will not be able to object in any way, shape, or form. And yeah, I'm too lazy to do this during a recording, but we're going to see a new province being created over here in this area, because this province, it would look ugly if it was entirely under the American flag. So we're not going to be doing that. And instead, the central Canadian country will still have land on this lake here, and the Americans will instead kind of go around it. They will get the capital of the country, though, which is definitely a major feat, but not the entire country. And I'm too lazy to just move this, so I'm going to erase this capital here. Do be noting that this thing probably has its capital in this major city here, but other than that, they probably don't have much going for them. So now this is the American Empire we're looking at. And they've been building up for a while now, and they're ready for their next goal, and that is pretty obvious. They're going to attack the alliance that is opposed to them. And so they will go ahead and send their forces into the Arizonan country, launching a full-scale invasion. From here, they also launched their invasion into Californian territory, as they immediately target military bases surrounding the neighboring regions here. And yeah, this will be a very big war as America is responsible for many different countries here. And this is just a war that would be really hard for any country to win. But since they're buffed, they're going to have an advantage in winning this. A few more countries will join the war, including these two down here. And as well as that, we're going to see the Alaskan country joining in hopes of helping their ally in California. This will not help them because they're immediately going to lose these two major cities, this major military base and this major military base here, effectively losing all this region here, which is not good. As well as that, nobody's really defending this border region here, so that's all going to fall. And that's going to give the Americans an advantage into invading this area in California here, which then kind of leads to these two major cities falling. So maybe Alaska joining the war was not a beneficial thing at all. From here, we're going to see a landing being made in the Yucatan country, and very quickly this thing will lose a lot of its coastline as this thing is underdefended. Soon after, a landing will be made in northern Honduras area in this guy, and another one in the Panama Canal, which will very quickly lead to this whole area over here falling. Of course, they're not going to occupy the Darien Gap or move through it. There are going to be separate landings here, but yeah, this happens. Also, there's a military base in the Darien Gap and two ports. Should probably be worried about that, but yeah, from here we're going to see a very quick collapse for the Central Americans, as American forces specialized to do this will very quickly push through this country, quickly wiping them out entirely. From here, a small regiment of these forces will begin to move up into areas of Mexico in order to open up a new front against the Yucatan country, which will very quickly lead to the collapse of this guy. At this point, this front will go ahead and round itself out in order to set up a defensive because that area was very quickly won by the American forces. At this point, we head over to West Mexico. We'll see a little bit of fighting, but not any relevant fighting because it barely goes into their territory, not enough to even threaten this major city to a really big amount. So, yeah. From here, we head over to the sports area here, where we're going to see the Mexicans losing some territory. The Mexicans are unable to keep up with the American advance. They're kind of the main target of the Americans at this point. However, the Americans will still see success as they're going to go ahead and wipe out all major areas in the Arizonan country. And from here, they're basically going to capitulate it. And at this point, we're going to see forces from the West Mexican country moving in to help reestablish this thing. However, this probably won't go all too well. And yeah, we're going to see forces moving into California out of this thing. And soon after, this whole area over here will be under the control of the Americans. At this point, they're going to reprioritize their front line as now they're just going to move along through Alaska towards this major military base here, then to this one, and they're basically at the coastline here. At this point, they are going to move through this weird geography to this major city here, and effectively they have cut off Alaska from their main territory. And at this point, they're very quickly going to squeeze them out. They're going to naval invade these islands over here. And from here, they're going to push down into Washington, taking a lot of this area here. At this point, they're going to connect all this area through the Idaho region here, then push out towards these major settlements and major military bases, then seizing all this land here. America is conquering the entire continent very quickly, and nobody's able to really stand up to them. In the south, this defensive is gaining land. That's how bad it is. The defensive is expanding. That never happens. Up here in northern Mexico, we're going to see this front beginning to push out as well, as they're going to push out towards this major military base here. At the same time, they begin to line the border of West Mexico, as maybe they're trying to eliminate this country from the war pretty early on to gain access to the Pacific in the south here. But it doesn't really matter when you get access in the north because the Alaskan country has lost its claim over Washington. Now forces begin to pour in through this area into areas of California. And yeah, they're very quickly wiping out these major military checkpoints and outposts. And at this point, they're kind of just gonna do this, which is not good because this giant chunk of land here will fall under the control of the Americans. And at this point, this is what the front line against America looks like in California and all the North American area. It's not looking all too good. From here, we head up to Alaska, who is gonna kind of have their remainder area along the coastline getting blitzed here, as yeah, at this point, the Alaskan country has nothing left to really fight for, so we're just gonna go ahead and see them surrender. Probably the better choice to make, as yeah, that's not good. From here, we're gonna see a counteroffensive in this area of the Arizonan country here, as American forces want to prioritize cutting West Mexico and this area of California off, in which they will do, taking this major city and port here. And at this point, it's cooked, as they're just blitzing through West Mexico, who they barely invaded this whole time. And yeah, it's not going all too well for them, as they're losing coastline in this area here, and they're also losing ports that are barely on the water and their capital. Great. At this point, the mainland area here will completely fall over to American forces, and eventually landings will be made on Baja California in multiple areas, which will lead to this area falling under American control. Soon after, a landing will be made up here, and soon after, this area will fall here. From here, we're going to get to see the West Mexicans getting squeezed out, and at this point, they're going to go ahead and surrender, and soon after, the Californians will as well, leaving just Mexico, who will make the good choice of surrendering over in order to not get obliterated. America just conquered half the continent, and now I have to hit the rewind button a whole bunch so we can actually discuss a treaty where there are changes on the map, because otherwise it would be impossible to do that. That's too far back. No, not that far. I think. There. Alright. Now I can go ahead and edit this. To start off, the Central Americans won't actually be losing all too much. We're going to see a familiar border actually returning here, except it's not going to be all that familiar, because we're going to see this entire area of Panama being given over uh, to the American country, if I can figure out what layer is which. Here we go. But yeah, we're going to see the entirety of Panama here, this region over in the west, or that's not the west, that's the east. We're going to see all this going to the American country. From here, the entirety of the Yucatan country will be given over to the Americans. And yeah, that's a pretty big one. So yeah, goodbye capital. And at this point, we get to talk about the Americans expanding into these other countries. To start off, we're going to have some land exchanges, because not all these countries will be able to survive with the borders I'm about to give them. So let's talk about those really quickly. To start off, over in this area here, we're going to see this province over here in the northern Arizonan country. It's going to be given over to the Californian guy. And as well as this, we're going to see a few provinces that are a part of West Mexico also getting separated and getting given to California, which will go ahead and look like this, as the Californians will go ahead and annex all this land to this region here, which is a pretty healthy amount of land for losing the war. But I mean, you're probably going to lose land in the north here any minute now, so yeah. Anyways, that brings us to the rest of the Arizonan country, who will get completely annexed by the American thing, at least what remains of them, because of course they lost land to California as well. And at this point, West Mexico will be losing quite a bit of land, and this land will be something that we can actually draw in here, as the West Mexicans will be losing this province area up here, as well as that they're going to be losing this coastal chunk of land here, as America's just gonna get their way here. And at this point, West Mexico will be divided into two little chunks. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the West Mexicans. They probably see a like civil war between the two different areas. Likely Baja California will try to gain its independence, but yeah, we're not gonna talk about that here. Actually, you know what? I'll recolor it just because I want the video to look more intriguing. So we're gonna give Baja California a brand new color, which will look like that. So yeah, now you're independent. Pretty cool. From here, we get to talk about the new border that the Americans will be drafting up for their border over here in Mexico, which will be relatively straightforward, and not all too much will actually be changed, as the Americans will actually only be annexing 3 provinces here, as most of their land gains will be seen elsewhere, not in this area, and we don't want the empire to be too big, so this is all the land that the Americans will be annexing out of this little guy. So, yeah, Mexico is gonna get away pretty unscathed, actually. And, gotta make sure I remove that capital. Actually, I could just do this, and you can have a capital instead. See, I'm innovating. And, yeah, from here, we get to talk about this giant chunk of land in the middle of California now, because it's about to get given away in a charity live stream. Just kidding. But now we get to discuss this giant chunk of land in the middle of America here because it's not going to be very Californian anymore. And instead, it's going to be, well, American. And, yeah, that's going to be seen as we're going to draw in a pretty indicative border here, which will stretch all the way out to the sea here, but I'm not going to do that quite yet because we're also going to see that the Alaskan country will be losing their claim in the Washington area here. Unfortunate, but it's going to happen. So, yeah, too bad, too sad. And yeah, from here, we're going to see, of course, this border changing. And yeah, that's a pretty large border just being erased like that. And now the Americans have 2 separate access points to the Pacific Ocean, which they've actually never had before. But now this is what the American Empire will look like, and that's actually going to do it for today's video. I really hope you all enjoyed, and I do want to say that if you've made it this far, make sure you do subscribe. If you made it this far, it's like, why haven't you already? So yeah, do that. And yeah, from there, liking the video really helps out. It shows that you like this type of content and would like to see more. And without further ado, I'm going to end the video. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.